So, I know these coasters pretty intimately, not like that, get your mind out the gutter, just in time. I couldn't have timed that any better. And then oh, it's just broken down. That's a typical flying coaster. It has a really, really weird shape. And this took me 3 hours. And yes, of course, we're ripping off Griffon. It takes around 80 to 100,000 lines of computer code to raise the trains from the seating to the prone position. Honestly, thought it was going to be the invert. I had everything planned out. Hey everybody, how's it going? So thanks for coming along to episode number 4 of ChachoLandia, and thank you for your responses to episode number 3. They're absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Really does mean the world to me, the amount of support that you guys are giving. So in the last episode then, we were doing this, our B&M flying coaster, which of course includes everything you'd expect from the maintenance area right the way through to the main station, to the gift shop and the photo shop on the inside, to the eatery and everything on the outside, and there it is, Sentinel, our crowd draw coaster. So this week then we're drawing our attentions and our affections down to this area here, and this is going to be the winner of the community poll that was up last week. Now, I wonder what that was. Well, it probably won't surprise you to see that the Rapids won the vote then, and you also would be forgiven for thinking Insanity Falls as soon as you see this, because that's exactly what it is. So, of course, this park would have opened in 2015, and this is a new generation Intamin Rapids Ride, and those would have been around about the time that the park would have been planned, but it wouldn't have been put into place when the park was built. So what we're saying here is that this Rapids Ride would have been put in after the park had opened. So the original park would have come down here, and this would probably be forest or some kind of scenery or something, and it's since been cleared. SeaWorld got Insanity Falls, and they did their thing, and now we've got one in here as well. So it's a very similar layout, but it's not the same. That's the important fundamental thing to remember with this one. So, you'll see that I've done lots of detailing, but also I haven't done lots of detailing at the same time, and that's because I'm kind of working through a bit of a mental process of going, I need to remember where certain things need to go, and I need to remember where certain facilities need to go, and we'll talk about those facilities and how the rapids operate later on, because I've got some interesting facts for you. But we're ultimately going to start here. So unlike Reigate Lake, we're not dealing with a circular platform station, we're dealing with your typical linear station on this one. And then we're going to come out the first bend and we're going to have our first features. You've probably already guessed the theme of this. Of course, we're going down that idea of jungly adventure kind of route. When I was building Fundy Fun Spot, I actually quite liked building using the adventure pieces. I very rarely get to do it, so I thought for this one I'm going to crack them open again. So again, these are all just like placeholders for things that I want to appear in certain places. And the reason for this bit being here is to hide the service road behind, because it's all on a very similar territory. So I'm starting to think about my guest sightlines and everything along here. And we come around the channel this way, and it's supposed to be quite fast flowing, and that's why I've used the rapids bit along here. And then we come down to the pool here. I just want to point out something that I'm doing here. This was kind of like by accident, but it was also kind of by design. I've just managed to fall upon the colours accidentally, but I definitely wanted to do this. It's a rapids ride, and it splashes. And it's going to splash into the soil and the mud and the bank that we've got either side, right? So of course you're going to have different colours of mud that are along here, and then this is going to be a little bit drier. So I've just started to put this idea of splashing and everything into everything that I do where it's close to water. So we come around this way, and we've got our spillways that are coming in here, because of course this is going to be a bend, and there's going to be lateral forces and everything that are going to be working on the water. So this then just has the ability to spill down into this overfill pond, and the idea being that this overfill pond then, when the rapids ride is not working, would operate as a reservoir along with the reservoir that you've got up at the top here. Like I say, talk about that later on. So then we come down into a bit of a rapids drop, and then it comes parallel to the final drop, and this is very Insanity Falls inspired. This is pretty much exactly how Insanity Falls work, and I like this layout because as rapids rides rafts come down this way, you start to splash this side. So I kind of wanted that idea of not only you getting wet from your own rafts, but you're actually getting wet because of the passing rafts as well. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. The drop itself isn't as tall as Insanity Falls, so that would retain its record as the longest or steepest or highest drop, whatever you want to call it, the highest drop on a rapids ride. That would retain that record. This just uses a slightly smaller version of that. And then, of course, we come around the bend this way, and we're starting to then climb up into a higher territory bit. So I wanted this to be on multiple terrain levels. I didn't want this to be a flat ride. And these rides are actually a lot different to traditional rapids rides. Like, traditional rapids rides are very much built into channels into the ground, and the ground then follows a contour, and that contour tends to be a downhill trajectory until you get to the station, and then you go back up a ramp, and then back into the station. There are some exceptions to that. I do concede. So Carowinds, their rapids is the other way around. You go up a hill and then down the hill. But either way, that follows that same pattern. Up a hill, down a hill, or down a hill and up a hill. These ones are very different. They're almost like independent channels of their own right. So they're very versatile, and they're also very efficient when it comes to water pumping and everything. So you can do a lot more with them. And so that's what we're doing here. Halfway around, you go up the hill, just like Insanity Falls does. And then we come around another landscaped piece of land. we come around the bend, come to a rapids, and then it comes round to the bottom here. And of course, the trade-off with this one being that we don't have vertical lift hills. I'm sorry, there's just nothing I can do about that. I can't even magic them together. So it is what it is. It goes up a normal lift hill and then into the drop, into the final splash, and then it climbs the lift hill back into the station. In terms of the actual area itself, I had this really awesome idea that I wanted these shops and everything to be hidden underneath some kind of rock work, so it looks like it's in a bit of a cave. That was a little bit inspired by Fuga de la Antida at Gardaland, and with a restaurant and everything that's underneath the drops. So I've kind of like started to put that idea here. But then I also wanted the path to rejoin the rapids ride at some point. And there's a kind of like a couple of functional things to do with that as well. That's to do with the fact that you need some kind of escape strategy. So I've started to put in the stairs all along here that would take me up to this access road. These stairs would take me up to this path. And then we've also got escape stairs here as well. So yeah, I've started to think about that whole escape strategy. I'm also thinking about water circulation and how that's going to be pumped around, and these things are just behemoths of machines. But before I can talk about any of that, I need to do some more work, because you can see there's quite a lot that's unfinished on this. So let's cut to that right now. There we go. That's a little bit more put together so I can talk you through the rapids, but it's also scrappy enough for it to be an update. And I've also done some maths on this one, because yes, I can do maths. And I've worked out that this rapids ride would contain somewhere in the region of 1.2 million gallons of water. And that is a lot of water that you need to throw through a lot of channels. So as I said in the last update, these new Intamin Rapids rides, they are just complete behemoths of machines. Like, they are just so efficient. They are worlds apart from the old rapids rides that you already know in a park that are just plopped into the ground and done with. They are just very, very, very different machines in 2021. So let's unpack how these rapids rides actually work, shall we? And we're going to start up here in the Reservoir. So I've placed this Reservoir in around about the same place that you would find on Infinity Falls, and you tend to find them at the lowest point of the ride. But this one is obviously slightly raised up because it has to have a really deep channel. I'm going to come to how this is filled up in a moment, because we need to sort of go round the course and show you how everything works, right? But ultimately, this is where the main bulk of the water is going to be stored when the rapids ride is not in operation. Now, because of the way that Planco works with the terrain and the water levels and everything, I have to have this reservoir full. Unfortunately, I can't lower the water level. So this is the first trade-off that you need to know about, is that actually this reservoir wouldn't be this full when this ride is in operation. But because of the way that the terrain is and the fact that I've got two different water levels, it doesn't like lowering the water level. So just please, we're just going to run with it, right? Sometimes you fight with the game and sometimes you just let it do its thing. So up here then, we've got ourselves some water treatment plants, and this, again, 1.2 million gallons of water would require around 4 of these water treatment plants. They are literally just filtration systems. They just make sure that the water is safe enough to be thrown around on top of guests and everything. Inside here, I've used the propane tanks, but it's not actually propane that's going to be in here. It would be some kind of like chlorine or water-based cleaning method. And that's what would happen here, is you would constantly be feeding some kind of water filtration and cleaner into the water and making sure that it's completely safe for not, I don't want to say consumption, because it's consumption is not the right word. You're not drinking it, but it's safe to be around humans and everything. So this is what you tend to find, is that all of the water at some point would come through this reservoir, because this is something called a closed water system. It's not fed by any other water source. It is completely its own independent water thing, and you would have some kind of like mains connection to top up the water if it was needed, but it's not filled in by any kind of passing stream or any kind of river or anything like that. Now, the other thing to talk about before we actually go round is that these rides can be operated in blocks, believe it or not. And I didn't know this, but in between each one of these lift hills, the ride can be controlled independently. It's like mind-blowing, honestly. So you can stop the water from flowing between the top of this lift hill and the bottom of this lift hill if you ever need to evacuate the ride. But you can maintain the water flowing around the rest of the channels if you needed to. So the idea being that if there was an emergency in this section here, you could stop the water, it drains out, the boats come to a standstill, but the boats that are already round the course later on, they continue their journey and can continue their journey to up to the station or wherever they're going to stop. I had no idea that Rapids rides could do that, but wow, it's brilliant. And so this is where we come to a second trade-off. At the very top up by the station here, this would all be one water level. Now, I don't have the ability to put the water in here again because of the way that the terrain works and the fact that it's dipping off here. I can't make the terrain level, but this would all be one water level, and all of the pumps and all of the water would come up underground, and they come up to this point here and they get thrown back round this way. So another interesting fact for you, each of these pumps that are in this ride would be around 300 horsepower. Now that is capable of doing 19,000 gallons of water a minute. That stat I can't verify anywhere, unfortunately, but that's just a stat that's thrown around by Intamin in documents. It's 19,000 gallons a minute. So let me know in the comments below, by the way, if you can find a source that can verify that, because say I can't find one anywhere, but I'm running with that because I can. So, right now, the next thing to talk about then is how this water travels down the course. So you pump all of this water from the top here, and there's like a bit of a pumping station in here, and it comes from two ways, and it just floods this area, and it then forces all of the water down the channels this way, right? So you're all familiar with how Rapids rides work, and then you come down this way, and then it comes into the main channel down here. Then we've got our waterfalls. So this is making use of all of the stored water that's in this mini level reservoir at the bottom, right? So all of the water that's been that's resting down here at a natural place is now coming into this spot. You then have evacuation platforms all along the bottom of the lift hill, and then you also have stairs along the side of the lift hill, and you also have the control panels to stop the blocking, to create the blocking if you're wanting to stop the ride at a certain point. So you just turn off the lift hill at this point, right? And then we're going to come up this way, and then you have another one of those behemoth pumps that come up here, and they're the ones that are transferring the water from the bottom, and it's coming right the way to the top. It's taken up to the highest point, obviously the same as the station, so the same principle as the station, and the water then floods this area, and it then is forced down the channel as you become familiar. You've got a sluice gate here, so if the pump happens to be pumping too much water down the channel, then it has an escape route, it has an escape strategy. And again, I can't make this the same level as the water, it's just not possible to do. But what we're saying here, and I also can't lower the trough either, so the trough would be slightly lowered here. I can't do that because the trough is fixed in game, so that's trade-off number 3. But this is what this is representing. Where there's too much water coming from the pumps, it would then just flow down into the next channel, and it sort of bypasses. But it's not at such a point that it would kill the water coming into this bend. It's really clever how it works. So anyway, then comes around this way. You have an escape platform here, because you may want to evacuate a boat, or you may want to do some servicing just before the drop, so you have an escape platform here, and then you come back round this way, and then you'll notice that I'm starting to use the wide open rapids, and I've done that down here as well, and that's because before any kind of incline you need to allow the water to collect, and you need to allow the water to sort of find its natural resting point, because you're about to change the terrain height, or you're about to change the height of the ride, right? So you may not be able to pump the water quick enough, and it needs the ability to flood a wider area than the channel provides. Now this is where this now brings me into how this reservoir is filled up, because if you're wanting to fill up this reservoir, you then have an escape route here. You have this sluice gate here. So the idea is that the water would come down into this area, it would flood this area, it would come into the pool, and this is when you pump the water out of the pool into the filtration systems, adding any of your chlorine and whatever chemicals that are allowed in your country to filtrate the system, and then it gets pumped back into this lower reservoir, which is when all of the water then comes from the lower reservoir, is pumped back up to the station, or back up to the highest point here, or back up to this point here, and then the water is circulated around that way. So you're not looking at putting your water all the way around the track in the conventional way that you do rapids. It's done in a very different way. It's done in three different stages. So you then have the escape platform and escape strategy coming along this way if you ever need to evacuate the ride. Then it comes up the lift hill, and then it comes into the drop. And now, this is the interesting thing with this drop. If you ever watch the things like the Shoot the Chutes, or if you've ever been on one, you'll notice that when it comes down the hill and it hits the water, you always get like a real jerk forward. But the boats are designed to not capsize, because that's a boat shape, right? But with the rapid shape, they're a ring, they're round. And what would happen is the raft would come down the hill, it would hit the bottom of the water, it would skid to a halt, and that's where you have a capsize risk. That's where it's at risk of toppling over itself. So these Intamin ones that have got these massive drops, they have these like runners that catch the boat at the fastest point of the drop, and it tilts it and shifts it so that it's actually a little bit on its backside, so it's scooting along the water until such time that it has slowed down enough for it to then be placed safely in the water and create the splash without creating a capsize risk. So that's what these runners are for when you're looking at rides like Thingy Falls. I've forgotten what it's called, that ride. And then obviously it comes back this way, creates the splash, and then you've got the normal you then got the normal lift hill, and then it just comes around this way into the station, and then you have a mini service area in the station. That's where you take your boats off, and then your van and everything can come in here and transfer back to the reservoir. So I need to put a road in here so that the vans can come straight from the maintenance area and come back around this way. And of course I need to finish everything off. Just to update the rest of the stuff, this is what I was talking about with the shops and everything that I wanted with the rocks coming over the top. Just need to do a bit more detailing, well, a lot more detailing, and bring this to life, and obviously bring this around this way. This was just trying it out in principle, and of course the queue line and everything is done. So I hope you found that bit interesting. If you do, leave a like on the video, because that actually helps. So I'm going to carry on building, and then it's time for the big reveal. Alright then guys, big reveal time, and of course we've got ourselves a name. So this was the winner of the poll over on the community tab. This one comes from Florida Coaster Enthusiasts Call, and it's Mehi Maopai, apparently. That's how I'm saying it. I set the bar quite high with Plumperpot's coaster, really, didn't I? So it's Swahili, it means white water, and it fits this ride absolutely perfectly. So thank you so much for that suggestion. And look, it's done. We have ourselves an entire ride area. I kind of wish that I'd done a midpoint update, because there's quite a lot to show you. But if there's anything you want to see me pull apart for the extra episode, let me know. So here we are then at the entrance area. So we've got our ride signs and everything pride of place. You can see the rapids on the right hand side. You've got a toilet block on the left hand side here, which is very much inspired by Slammer at Thorpe Park, and the fact that there's just a toilet block that greets you. And then you can look down into the plaza area where you can see the ride and all of the shops and everything. So toilets, yes, of course, they're decorated inside as you would expect. So you've got your sinks, and you've also got the vending machines and the bins and blah 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 blah. That's not what you're here for. Then we come down into the main plaza area. This is a steampunk brick that I've found on the workshop, and it just looks awesome as the floor. And then we've got the stairs on the one side, you've got the ramp on the other side. So we come down into the main plaza area. And this is where you find your ride photos, which is just your typical ride photo shop. Of course, I put in all of the ride photos and everything from here and kept it with this whole Aztec kind of theme, this adventure theme, and then just put the ride signs and everything around. And then on the other side, we've got a grab-and-go unit that's very much inspired by one at Gardaland. Nice and simple, lots of poles, lots of beams, lots of bamboo, and of course we've got that really clean looking Aztec stuff as well. And then this is what I was trying to explain before about the immersiveness with the rock and how I wanted the shops to go into like a cliff with the ride on the top. You can almost imagine that there's not a ride here, and then I've just put loads of foliage and everything around just to make it look as I want it to, right? So this is exactly as I pictured this area to be. And then we come to the ride area itself. So I've fenced off all of the area so that people just can't jump in and drown. Let's not kill our guests. This is not a murder park. And then we come across the bridge then, and then where I've got all of the rapid style fencing and everything, and I've just carried on the Goza temple flooring and everything along this way. It comes around the bend, over a second bridge, which I wanted to keep these bridges open, by the way. I didn't want to close them in. It felt like this area needed to be closed in by foliage and not by buildings, so that's what I've done here. And then it comes into the cattle pen overflow queue and then into the station itself. So as soon as I realised that this was a Swahili name, I wanted to start bringing some Swahili architecture in, and these huts with the poles and the beams and the rope and the thatch is just perfect for that. So I've just done that kind of theme. And then you've also got this like rock effect as well. So I just wanted to bring this in with some planks and everything. Then of course you've got all the stuff that you'd expect to see in here: ride operator booth, some signage and stuff, you know, that you find dotted around. And then round the ride course then, so we've got hidden away as many amenities and facilities and stuff as I possibly can. We've got ourselves a nice little display here, which I just wanted to keep it simple, right? I didn't want to go over the top like Gardaland would do with theirs, but we're spending a lot of money on the ride system rather than the theming and stuff around it, right? So you come around the first bend, you come to this little bad boy. This will fire up and it will show steam and everything as the boats go past, and then it comes underneath into the first inverted commas drop, and then into a rapid section. And it comes around the corner past all of the waterfalls and everything. And I've tried my best to hide all of the maintenance stuff that's living in the background here, because like that's kind of, this park would do that. This park is making the effort to hide as much as possible, but there is a point that you're going to see in a moment that it's not possible to do that, so you get full frontal view of the reservoir. So then you're going to come around the bend underneath all of the waterfalls, and then up the lift hill, and then you come into the second rapids section. So we come around this way into a drop through a second temple kind of theme area, if you like, and around a bend, and then another drop into this more wider rapids area as well. Come past the plane on both sides actually, so you see the plane from both sides with all of the steam and everything. There's the full frontal view. Oh, full frontal view of the chill out, of the rapids, the whole reservoir area and stuff. And then we come down the drop, as you've already seen, this way. There we go, down the drop, and then into the final one where it comes up this way and then round the bend. So in terms of foliage, I wanted this area to feel like it was a lot more grown up. So when you buy in bamboo, it grows really, really quickly. It can grow out of control. So even though this ride is pretty much brand new, the bamboo and everything would already be established, and it takes in quite well. And in the UK, we can grow palm trees. Down in the south coast and everything, you see palm trees quite a lot. So I just wanted those palm trees and everything to come in here, and it was quite important I had them. And then from this side, I wanted to give a view of as much of the ride as possible. So you've got the station on the right hand side here, and then you've got all of the stuff on the left hand side. Now there's a question that I need to ask about the area that's coming this side along here. So I'm going to be putting a poll in the community tab. There's going to be a coaster here, and I'm going to control which coaster type it is. It's either going to be an invert or a B&M wing, for reasons that you'll see when we build either one of those. So head over to the community tab and let us know what you think there. And then so this area between Sentinel and the Rapids ride, I wanted it to have a bit more establishment, right? So the idea is that you've got all the service and stuff areas behind it, so we're trying to hide and obscure as much of that as possible. So what better way of doing that than to fill it with a ride? So we've got ourselves breakdance. Nothing special, it's just a ride that comes in this way. The queue is just a cattle pen queue that's out and back, and I've just hidden the pad using foliage and rocks and everything just to give it a bit more of an interesting shape. But this now feels like it's actually properly filling the area between Sentinel, you can't see because of trees, filling the area between Sentinel and the actual Rapids Ride itself. And I love how you just get a little bit of a view of the station from this area just as you're starting to become immersed in all of that. So we've got some ride music as well, so you can hear that we've got the whole ride area music playing. There's two types, so whenever you've got a bit more rapidy type music, that's the action coaster soundtrack, but anything that's not rapids based, it's just your very authentic adventure style theme. So just one more look at the whole thing. It has a night package, by the way. So if I just change this to PM, you can real quickly see that this has got a light package that's going on back here. So yeah, I like how this has turned out. Lots of bright colours, lots of vibrant colours on this one. So guys, I'm going to put in some glamour shots here so you can see the whole thing in a bit more considered way. But thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. Your support really does mean the world to me. If you have liked the video, you know what to do. Leave a like, leave a comment down below, come to the community tab and say hi. All of your interactions absolutely help us find new audience for our channel, so thank you all so much for your support. We're going to go for a ride on this one. It's quite a long POV, so I've sped it up ever so slightly, but so I can keep the episode length down. But yeah, thank you so much for getting to the end. And of course, guys, until we speak again, see you next time. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. Bye-bye.